Hey, welcome to Vegas Valley Hearing. My name is Ashley Romero, and I want to welcome you to our first question and answer session with Dr. China Frana, a audiologist from GN Resound who specializes in hearing aids. And we're going to talk about some of our top questions that we have patients call the office and ask us. With a lot of things changing in today's date, we want to give patients an opportunity that don't want to come into the office but have questions, an outlet to have those questions answered. So I'm going to throw it over to China and we'll get started with some of our questions. So my number one question for you, China, is going to be, what are the signs of hearing loss?
That's a great question. You know, a lot of people, especially now, they're realizing that they're having trouble hearing with a mask. And they're having trouble because, one, it sounds maybe a little bit more muffled, or they can't see the lips and they didn't realize they were lip reading a little bit. And so, some of the common signs is that mumbling, where people, think it might just be the mask that's causing the difficulty, but really it's just exaggerating what they already have difficulty with. So mumbling can be a sign. Maybe somebody says, I can hear, it's just not quite clear enough. If you're noticing that you're having difficulty following conversations when you're in a large group of people, maybe somebody else starts talking and you don't realize it, or maybe you're with your family around the table and there's a lot of background noise and you're kind of missing some things. Also, people can have difficulty localizing where sound is coming from once hearing loss starts. So maybe they hear a bird and they think it's coming from the right-hand side and really it's coming from the left-hand side. You can even maybe notice that you're turning the TV up a little bit more, or you're starting to say, huh, a little bit more. And even sometimes you can hear a ringing or like a buzzing sound in your ears, and that's sometimes a sign that there's hearing loss occurring.
Thank you for that, China. That was a really great explanation. So that kind of feeds right into my next question. What are the causes of hearing loss? People have so many questions and there's so many different reasons.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different things that can cause hearing loss. It can be related to your health. It can be related to your medications. Most often, people recognize that they're starting to have more hearing loss as they age. And so we do call it age-related hearing loss. But one thing that I want people to be aware of is that even though as we get older, we tend to have hearing loss more, doesn't necessarily mean that it's normal. I like to tell people hearing loss isn't normal. There's a cause for it. There's a reason why you have it, whether that's loud noise exposure that's been built up over time. Maybe it's, a medication that you're on. So if you're experiencing hearing loss, it is common. It is more common to notice as we age, but it's definitely not normal. So that's why we want to get it looked at and treated right away.
So as far as treatment goes, obviously hearing aids would be a recommendation. Mm-hmm. What are main differences right now in some of the hearing aids that are offered, maybe as far as batteries versus no batteries and rechargeable options?
Yeah, so a lot of people probably picture a pretty big device that they have to wear on their ears, and maybe they even know a friend that has a big one. But hearing aids really do come in all shapes and sizes nowadays and all different capabilities. So you can get something that's sits down in your ear canal that's pretty invisible, all the way to a custom device that's a little bit larger and is sitting right in here for somebody to adjust. And we offer a bunch of different colors to match skin or hair, or even clear to kind of have it blend in. And then there's even over the ear styles. So for me, I'm wearing a pair right now. I'm going to go ahead and take it out. And here's what it looks like. It's a little piece that sits behind the ear. There's a button on it with a little wire that goes into the ear. This is a very popular option right now for a lot of people because it does tend to be a little less noticeable. And again, this back color, you can get in several different colors to match your hair or your skin color. And then there's even larger ones for, patients that maybe have a more severe hearing loss, or even dexterity issues where they can't quite feel stuff or they have trouble getting something in. So there's really something to accommodate everybody. As far as these different options go, Ashley, you're kind of asking about, different battery options. And so some of them take batteries, and then some of them are completely rechargeable. So you can just set them on a charger during the night, and then in the morning you wake up and go, and you don't have to worry about changing out batteries.
On average, just to clarify, what would you say the average battery span for a day might be for maybe the rechargeables versus the non-rechargeables?
Yeah. So for a non-rechargeable, it really depends on, how big of a battery you have in that device, and then how severe your hearing loss is. The more severe your hearing loss is, the quicker you're going to go through that battery. But they last anywhere from a week to probably 2 weeks with a battery operated one before you have to change it. And then we have our rechargeable options. And at Resound, we offer a great rechargeable option just because you get the longest battery life that I've ever seen. You can get up to 30 hours of battery life. So I'm wondering how many of you, are awake for 30 hours a day? Probably not many of you.
I'm not.
So the great thing about that is even if you are, streaming maybe a phone call or music or a Zoom session into your hearing aids, you can still get over a day's worth of battery life out of your rechargeable options. Or if you forget to charge it overnight one time, you're still good to go for that next day. So that is the benefit of a rechargeable option. You can kind of have a little bit more leniency as far as that goes.
It's so great too, the rechargeable option. It's very convenient on my end for people with dexterity issues too, where that battery option is just very difficult for them to either change the battery or open and close the battery door. So I would definitely say that the rechargeable for people with dexterity has been a game changer as a practice owner.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I know even if there's any vision issues, that rechargeable option is a little bit easier than trying to find a battery and put it in.
Definitely. All right, let's move on. One of the other questions we get a lot is like the average lifespan, let's say, of a hearing aid for patients.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like that is definitely a common question that a lot of people have questions on, because you are spending money on a device and you want to make sure that it lasts. It really can depend. So I would say on average, most people probably get a new hearing aid every 5 to 6 years, just as an average. I've had people come into the office that have had 10-year-old hearing aids, and that's great. It's actually kind of rare to see, because what happens if you have a 10-year-old hearing aid, it really means that you either didn't wear it or you took really, really good care of it. And so it has to be in good condition to kind of last that long. Because what we start to see kind of right around that 5 to 6 year mark is we start to see more need for repair, just because over time, your body oils get in there and they leak and they start to break things down. Sometimes it's just good old wear or tear of how aggressive you are at putting the device in your ears or taking them out. So if you really clean them well, take good care of them, they can definitely last a little bit longer, but still kind of right around that 5 to 6 year mark, we see a lot of people making the decision, do I want to spend more money on repairs? Because after that point, warranties kind of go out, and so we're starting to see a little bit more out-of-pocket cost. And then, so people make the decision, do I want to spend more money on either renewing a warranty or repair, or do I want to invest that in new technology? Because we do come out with improvements in technology. There's usually improvements every couple of years in technology, and significant improvements in technology every maybe 4 to 5 years. So a lot of people just kind of want to invest in that better sound quality, that better hearing experience around that time.
Awesome. Yeah, I would definitely say that 5 to 6 year mark for us is pretty average too, because again, that's when technology starts to change.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that that's kind of across the board a little bit. So as far as hearing aids and the ones, let's say, like you could purchase online that maybe advertise themselves as hearing aids, what would you say that those differences are between the hearing aids that we dispense in our office versus the ones that you can get online?
This is a really confusing topic for most people. Because there's a lot of information out there, and marketing, they always have these fancy terms and wording, and so a lot of people will think, oh great, I can get this device in the catalog for $200, or whatever it may be advertised as, and it's a hearing aid, it's going to work, it's going to solve my problems. But sometimes when things sound too good to be true, they really are. Because they might describe this as treating a hearing loss, you might think it's a hearing aid, but a lot of those products are actually just sound amplifiers. They'll look like a hearing aid, so they'll look and kind of fit like a hearing aid, but what they're actually doing is different. And what an amplifier is going to be doing is it's going to be like the TV volume control. You're just turning up all of the sound. You're turning up the speech, but you're also turning up all of that background noise. So you're not really getting the clarity or the benefit that you think you're going to be getting. And that's where we see a lot of people who are unhappy with their hearing aids actually have these just sound amplifiers that they think are hearing aids. But what an actual hearing aid is doing, it's a prescription, like an eyeglass prescription. So we test your hearing loss, or we test your hearing and see kind of where you have hearing loss. So at some pitches might be better than other pitches. And so what we really want to do is we want to balance that sound so that the pitches that you need the most help with, we're turning those up, but we're not over amplifying the other pitches that you can already hear normally. And then we're also trying to help to process. It's a very sophisticated computer inside of a hearing aid, but what we're trying to do is process sound, and so that way we amplify what the speech conversation is saying, but not amplify that background noise. So it's working to cancel out some of that noise so that way you can really understand, maybe at Thanksgiving that's coming up and hear all those family members, you can really pull out what those kids or, cousins are saying.
So would you say it's more about intelligibility with speech than just amplifying all sounds, just kind of in layman's terms?
It is. It's more about the speech understanding than just amplifying everything. Because what's going to happen if we amplify everything, it's going to overwhelm you. And you're going to go, no, thank you. Let's put these in a drawer. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much. And so with hearing aids, we really try to make it as comfortable as possible. And it's going to take some tweaking to get that. But that's some of the fun in fitting a hearing aid for us. I know it. Everybody's a little bit different. And then another thing that's different than when you get something out of, that you go into a store and just buy, or you get in the mail, is that you're not getting the service with that. So fitting hearing aids is kind of an art. It's a science and it's an art. And so you can't just put on a sound and say, oh yeah, that's going to be good, because everybody's got different preferences. Some people like to hear that refrigerator running, or maybe their dog's toenails on the floor. Other people don't. And so there's a lot of little tweaking that hearing care providers, such as you, Ashley, are offering, is that you tweak that, and you also help counsel, so you know what to expect and what we can change. So I do recommend that if anybody has questions, maybe you do have a hearing device, or you got one from a friend that was, passing on whatever devices they had. That's something that if you have a question about it, I would highly encourage people to seek out providers like Ashley, so that way they can help you and see what you're working with and if it would be a benefit to you.
Yeah, we do get a lot of people that think they're wearing hearing aids, and when we, after the exam and we talk to them, we find out that they're actually just amplifiers. And a lot of times when I do have patients that have gone from amplifiers to hearing aids, it's almost instant, where they're like, wow, that sounds so much better.
Yeah.
So
Ashley, when you get somebody that walks in with one of those, I guess, how do you typically talk to them? Is there I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this, because I think what a lot of people are nervous about is it's like, well, are you just going to try to sell me something? And
Right.
so, like, I guess the question is, um, how do you help a client differentiate with what is going to be proper for them and what's maybe not going to be appropriate for them?
Well, and I think you kind of answered in your previous question, because all hearing aids are specific to that individual. So with an amplifier, we're amplifying all sound, versus with the hearing aid, that's a very specific based off of the patient's hearing loss. And by showing them, sometimes I'll even demo a hearing aid right in the office just to show them this is what an amplifier sounds like versus the hearing aid. And they always instantly hear the noise reduction, because the amplifier is amplifying all those environmental sounds that, like you said, can be very overwhelming at times. Some people don't like them at all. Then you have those people that do like them. So we were able to offer that individualized experience for each client, where as with the amplifier, that's not even a possibility. So I think that visual and that actual demo of what a proper fitting hearing aid should sound like, makes them notice instantly. I had a patient in here yesterday who went from amplifiers, and within minutes she was like, wow, I cannot believe what I've been missing. And it just, you open the patient's eyes to what proper hearing care should be. And I think that's the biggest aspect of it, is there's so much more to hearing aids than just putting the hearing aid on and going about your business. We provide a service that guides you through that process by a professional. So I think that's the big difference for me. And once patients really come into the office and realize the type of service, that we offer in the office, let alone from home, that they can get versus telecare and stuff like that, they realize that the experience is completely different.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. There's a lot of care that goes into, when I walk in your office, I can definitely tell there's a lot of care that goes into, how that patient's doing, and even how their
Yes.
family members are doing with them, because hearing loss doesn't just affect the person that has hearing loss, it's also affecting their loved ones.
Oh, definitely. And again, that's something we don't realize sometimes until we're hit with that experience of suffering from hearing loss,
Yeah.
So
what does it look like in your office now with COVID? How have you reacted to that?
Well, some of the things that we've changed is I've reduced the amount of chairs in our waiting room, obviously, and we're asking for only one patient and maybe their caregiver at a time to be in the office. That way we also have an opportunity to sanitize in between each patient or a office. So I want to make patients be able to feel comfortable when coming into the office and not feel they're either too close to somebody or just that uncomfortable feeling that's kind of arisen because of the social distancing. So we've asked patients to contact the office when they arrive. We have a couple of signs on our door, big enough for everyone to see. And then just we let you know if we are ready for you, or sometimes we might have you wait a moment or two while we sanitize the rooms. We also have acrylic separators for the receptionist up front. One of the really cool things we have too that I don't have with me right now, and I should, is our clear masks that we wear for our patients. So it really allows them to understand us better by being able to visually see our mouth move. So those are a couple of the major changes that we've made. The other being, we also now offer curbside appointments. So if you need to come in, but maybe don't feel comfortable enough to come into the office, we can help you curbside. Some of the other features too, we also, with the updates to the hearing aids, are able to offer telehealth appointments. So we're able to have a virtual face-to-face appointment with the patient and make live adjustments to their hearing aid while they're either at home or maybe at their vacation home, So we've had to expand some of our services that we offer. With the changing times and everything, we want everybody to have a spot in our practice where they feel comfortable. So we've have these new lines of service and feel that we have a response for each patient. You know, everybody has a different comfort level right now. And my goal as a provider is to make each patient feel comfortable in my office. So I would say that's pretty much the main changes we've made. The other one is we've allowed for scheduling differences between each patient so that if appointments do go over, we still have time for cleaning and sanitizing between each one. And then unfortunately, we don't offer walk-ins anymore. We used to have a period of time where we would allow patients to walk in, which we might get back to eventually, but because of the social distancing guidelines set out right now, and for the comfort of our patients while they're in our office, we're just doing curbside appointments for walk-ins where they can wait, and when we're done with the patient, we can assist them as needed.
It sounds like you're taking a lot of protocols for everyone's safety, including your own safety as well.
You know, my staff is very important to me, and so is my family. And also, you know, a lot of my patients are at a risk group, and I want to make sure that everybody is protected during this time. You know, maybe we're being a little overly cautious at some times, but I hope to look back on that and say that was a good choice that we made. So
yeah, it's better to be overcautious than
definitely
be the person that spreads COVID.
Definitely.
No, I love how customized you are to fit people's comfort levels. Kind of with that in mind, if somebody was curious about getting their hearing tested, what would that process look like for them?
So for a hearing test, especially if you're a new patient, we'd have you come into the office. Obviously, before arriving, we would ask that you call. Have you come into the office. At that point, you're actually escorted directly into the testing room where you can fill out your paperwork and feel comfortable, not rushed or anything. We go through the hearing test, and based off the results is when we make a decision on either what type or style or, you know, in conjunction with the patient's decision, make a decision from there. I would say the average hearing test is about 45 minutes, and then it gives us maybe about a half an hour to discuss what hearing aid options is necessary for the patient. And, you know, all that is factored in, whether, you know, the patient's age, their hearing loss, their lifestyles, of course, their budget. And I would definitely say, from my perspective, every hearing aid recommendation for a patient is different. Because no said person has the same lifestyle or has the same home life or has the same health conditions that the other person does. So I would say that that's a very individualized experience as well.
Yeah. And what I loved about that is that you schedule a lot of time with your patients, and that's not something that I see in all offices, is you're actually scheduling time to have that conversation and answer the questions that they might have.
You know, one of the reasons I chose to maybe extend our appointment times initially, you ever gone to the doctor and waited for hours and just felt so mad that you're waiting because someone didn't schedule appropriately? I've always had a firm belief that I don't like that when I go to other places. So I'm not going to subject my patients to that. And, you know, occasionally things happen or you have technical difficulties and we do run over here and there. But I would very much say that we strive very hard to give each patient their allotted time and not make the patient feel rushed. You know, it's a big thing. You know, when I'm in an appointment and I feel rushed, you have a tendency of forgetting to ask the questions you want to ask. You know, maybe you would have done more or said more had you not felt that need where you were rushed. And then how many people have been to an appointment where they've waited for an hour and a half, and then by the time the doctor comes in, you're done. You don't even want to be there anymore.
Yep. I got to get on with my day. I got to pick the
Yeah.
kids up or something. Yeah.
So that's something that has always been very important here at Vegas Valley Hearing, even prior to the pandemic. That's just been something that I feel is important in healthcare, and maybe we need to kind of steer towards a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. No, you said that, the hearing experience. So if somebody has hearing loss and hearing aids are appropriate for them, everybody's got their own unique experience and maybe a different recommendation. How will a patient know if a hearing aid is appropriate for them? Will they be able to kind of experience that for themselves without a commitment?
Definitely. Here in the office, we like to demo the products. So what that entails is we would program the device specifically for that patient's hearing loss and give them an opportunity to maybe hear what they've been missing, but also give them an opportunity to see all the fun, cool things that can go with it too. I'm kind of a geek in that manner, like the accessories and the app on the phone that are really cool. A lot of people have that negative connotation of what hearing aids are, from whether their parents wore hearing aids or even their grandparents wore hearing aids. So I feel that in-office demo really gives them an opportunity to be like, this is not my grandmother's hearing aid anymore, and how technologically savvy they really are, because we just don't know before we come into the office. We know we have a hearing loss, we know we probably need a hearing aid, but we just don't know exactly what a hearing aid does and what it can do and all the features and accessories that are available. And I think having a patient in the office and actually seeing that and experiencing that maybe gives you a sense of relief a little bit. Like, okay, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this. Or you get the, wow, I heard a lot more than I thought I was going to hear right off the bat. So I feel that gives us that opportunity to answer those questions before that patient makes a commitment.
Yeah. So that it kind of takes the pressure off of them a little bit too.
Definitely. Well, and I hate to say it, but you don't buy a car without test driving it. It gives you that opportunity to make sure you're like, oh, wow, this is something that I want to try.
Yeah.
This is something that I want to attempt and better my hearing lifestyle with.
Yeah. I will say that, hearing aids have come a long way. A lot of people don't realize all of the different features that hearing aids can now do. Always the most important is that you're getting a natural sound experience as closely as possible. And sometimes that takes a little practice because you've had hearing loss for a while. But it is really neat, that you can connect to Apple and Android phones, and you can stream those conversations right into the ear, so you're not trying to, hear through that telephone. And you can, stream your music. There's also those accessories to help you hear the television better, because one of the common things that we hear is accents on the TV are really hard to understand, or even a microphone that somebody wears in a noisy restaurant, just to kind of
right
that speech a little bit better. So there's a lot of different things that can really help a patient, but allows you to customize that hearing experience to that specific patient.
Definitely, for sure.
What happens if a patient or maybe their spouse is maybe pressuring them into getting the device because the spouse is a little bit more annoyed with the hearing loss than the patient? And what happens if, maybe the patient isn't satisfied with just the hearing experience?
So we have a couple options for that. Here in our office, when you make a decision to purchase a hearing aid, you have 30 days once you pick up the hearing aid. So you come into the office for your first fit, and at that time you pay your portion, and that's when your 30-day trial begins. And what that consists of is 30 days to try the hearing aid on your own terms, in your own environment. And then at the end of that 30 days, if you're not satisfied with the product, you can return it, or we can upgrade you to a different product, or in some situations, we can even downgrade you, to a product that might be easier for you to use, maybe compatible with your phone or other devices that you have. But I will say the most important thing to me for the follow-up care of the hearing aid is those first 30 days. We ask that you come in weekly. Sometimes I see my patients twice a week, those first 30 days, for us to get things right. And I keep kind of going back to that individualized experience, but that is really what it is. During that first 30 days, it allows us to get those adjustments made, those tweaks, the environmental sounds to where the patient is comfortable with them, but yet can still hear the speech of their spouse or their grandchildren. So that first 30 days is very important to come in for those follow-up appointments. One of the things that I have found that works for me is during those first 30 days, I ask the patient to maybe journal a little bit, whether it's a mental journal or even a physical journal, and jot down those times, like I did really good in this type of situation and I did really bad in this one. And then that way, when you come back in for those follow-up appointments, it gives us points where we can actually go from. Where did you do good and how can we make that better for you if it's not ideal yet? And so those first 30 days are just extremely important.
So it sounds like you're really working with them and help kind of even coaching them to figure out a solution to make sure that the hearing aids are giving them benefit.
Oh, definitely. And then there's no commitment then. Because then you have those 30 days to say, okay, I'm going to put myself in these situations that I struggle in, because unfortunately my office is a controlled environment. We're small. It's not really loud here. So we give you that opportunity to put yourself in your environment and give you the tools to allow yourself that, like I said earlier, that better hearing lifestyle. It's an old adage I say all the time, but you don't know what you're missing until you hear it. And it gives you that opportunity for the brain, that 30 days for the brain to retrain itself, for, you to understand maybe where the sounds are coming from. I always like to tell my patients, you can teach the brain new tricks. Adapting, so, and again, that's where we offer that personalized experience, I think.
Yeah. I love that you can train the brain new tricks, because it is true. A lot of people don't realize what they can still learn, or what actually seems simple, as long as someone's showing them how or kind of helping them through it.
Definitely. And again, if you have somebody to guide you through that process, I feel sometimes it takes maybe the edge off a little bit. You're more willing to do it, just more willing, right?
I agree. Oh, I've enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for having me be a part of it.
Well, thank you, China. I really appreciate you joining us today and going over some of these questions that our practice has, and help our patients answer these questions without having to come into the office. Just with times changing and everything, we just have to learn to adapt a little bit.
We do.
Thank you, Dr. China Frana, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If this seminar doesn't answer the questions maybe that you have, we would like you to reach out to us. You can do that either by giving us a phone call, dropping us an email, commenting on the Facebook post this is attached to. We will have all of our contact information right there in the post. And again, please feel free to give us a call, drop us an email, leave a comment on any question that you have. And again, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you at Vegas Valley Hearing. Bye, Trina. Thank you.
Bye.